Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon. This is Victoria Chung from SCS Global Services, and we'll go ahead and get started. We'll do a short presentation and then have about 15 minutes at the end to answer your questions. Any questions that go unanswered, we will reach out to you directly to get you those answers. And then tomorrow, the webinar is being recorded, so tomorrow we will send out that webinar recording edited to cut out the early 20 minutes. So let's go ahead and get started. Time is of the essence. So welcome everyone to the Introduction to the Rainforest Alliance 2020 Sustainable Agriculture Standard for Farm and Supply Chain. We'll briefly go over SCS, the introduction to the Rainforest Alliance, the introduction to their 2020 Sustainable Agriculture Standard, and what are the benefits, and then how to get certified. So we have Olivia joining us from Rainforest Alliance. She is one of the primary relationship managers for the Rainforest Alliance's strategic partners in North America. And I'm also joining you, Victoria Chung, technical manager for the Responsible Sourcing Strategies program at SCS Global Services. So a bit of background. SCS is an international leader in third-party sustainability, environmental, and food safety certification. We also do standard development, and we specialize in auditing, testing, certification, verification, life cycle assessment, training, and strategic consulting. And as of 2021, SCS is now an authorized certification body for the Rainforest Alliance. We overlap a lot with the mission with the Rainforest Alliance. We recognize achievements of organizations who meet the highest level of performance in environmental protection, social responsibility, product and food safety and quality, and then with an emphasis on continuous improvement on the path toward sustainability. Of course, Rainforest Alliance isn't the only scheme that we offer. We have a myriad of food safety audit schemes, FSSC, Global Gap, Harmonized Gap, SQF. We also provide training and consulting services in addition to food labeling schemes like gluten-free, non-GMO project verification, USDA organic, Fair Trade USA, SMETA. We do over 70 certification schemes, but these are just the main ones relating to food and agriculture. So with that, I'm switching over to Olivia, and she'll be joining us by phone, so she'll also let me know when to change slides for her.
Great, thank you so much, Victoria, and thank you to everyone who is joining us today to learn about our 2020 Sustainable Agriculture Standard. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your persistence and your patience while I had a technology meltdown, but we're here now, and I am really grateful for this opportunity to share some of our work with you. So as Victoria said, I am one of the managers on the markets transformation team in North America, and I work with our strategic partners in the US and Canada across all crops to implement certification and engage with our program. So the focus of this program or this presentation is certification, and my goal of the next 15 or 20 minutes or so is to give you some information on what the standard encompasses, what agricultural sectors we work in, and ultimately why you should pursue certification. So through the 2020 Sustainable Agriculture Standard, Rainforest Alliance partners with farmers and forest communities to protect the environment through sustainable agriculture and forest management practices and livelihoods improvement strategies. And we also partner with companies to engage in responsible business practices across the whole supply chain. And besides the business sector and agricultural sector, we work with civil society, local governments, and also consumers to create an enabling environment for the commitments that you make and increase demand and awareness for Rainforest Alliance certified products in the market. So through our work and with certification, our goal is really to fundamentally transform the way that the world produces, sources, and consumes agricultural and consumer goods. So Rainforest Alliance has been in this space as a standards body for just over 30 years, and we are very widely regarded as having a standard that is comprehensive and rigorous in both social and environmental criteria. We really view both social and environmental issues as interconnected in the sustainability conversation, and it's essential to address both of those in order to make meaningful progress on sustainable development goals and CSR targets. So these are the 4 areas of impact that our standard is driving. We're looking at farmer livelihoods, human rights, climate, and forest. So the 2020 Sustainable Agriculture Standard has criteria to improve farmer and worker livelihoods by addressing productivity, increases of yields, living wage and living income progress, and also ensures that actors in the value chain that are not producing crops, that are buying certified goods, that are manufacturing or physically handling those goods, are also playing a role in rewarding farmers for sustainable agricultural practices and ensure that those practices can continue to be taken up. We have criteria that are designed to prevent, remediate, and also prohibit the worst forms of child labor, forced labor, and workplace violence and harassment. And new to the 2020 standard is also criteria that specifically promotes gender equality at both the farm and supply chain level. And the standard offers a context-adaptable approach for different crops and regions to implement and protect the world's forests, which are designed to make and also conserve resources, protect biodiversity and pollinators, and to truly be regenerative in the landscape where the crops that we work with are grown. And it also places an emphasis on no destruction of natural ecosystems or deforestation, protection of areas of high value. We've taken some ambitious steps on reducing the use of highly hazardous pesticides in this program as well. So I think what all these criteria have in common, and what these focal areas have in common, is that they directly prioritize sustainability topics that companies indicate in their CSR frameworks and ESG goals. So becoming certified is one way of engaging with and reporting on engagement with these issues. So the standard can be applied across dozens, hundreds even of crops, especially if you're looking at the vegetables, fruits and juices, and herbs and spices category. We certify everything from cardamom to turmeric, nuts, tomatoes, avocados, cut flowers, citrus, asparagus, and from this list, producers can obtain certification for any one of these products. And if you're a manufacturer or a retailer, a brand, anyone in the supply chain that's not growing but is how handling these products, these are the types of products that you can purchase and make claims against through your certification to these supply chain requirements. And it is a fairly large program. Over 2 million farmers participate in over 72 countries, including the United States, Canada, and Mexico, and products bearing this seal can be found in almost every country around the world. So just to take a step back momentarily from the details of the standard and crops, to share a bit more about our organization, which is that in 2018, we merged with another standard body called UTS. We had very similar missions, visions for people and nature, as well as overlapping business audiences and geographic and crop focuses. So we merged in order to be able to maximize our impact and our reach, and ultimately be better resourced to serve our partners around the world. So we're now just known as the Rainforest Alliance, and one of the main outputs of that merger was the reimagined Sustainable Agriculture Standard, which officially launches July 1st. So I want to share a little bit what the underlying principles of this standard are. This is more about the structure than it is about the criteria and risk areas. And I think this is important to hear because both Rainforest Alliance and UTS had pre-existing standards, and when we merged and moved forward with creating a new certification program, we considered what the most needed innovations were for certification as a whole. So those are fostering greater transparency in the supply chain from farm to shelf, driving continuous improvement for sustainability across the value chain, which I heard Victoria echo when she was talking about the values of SCS, encouraging shared responsibility for sustainability practices and investments in the value chain, also strengthening our assurance system to drive greater credibility and increase the value of our audits. And finally, we've integrated our approach to farm and supply chain criteria. And this means that our standard reflects that it is important that both the farm and supply chain actors engage at a high level in driving sustainability. So what is the business case for certification. Why should you work with us, and why should you invest in Rainforest Alliance certification specifically, especially if you already address the sustainability topics I discussed in other ways in your business? And I think we can look at this from the perspective of risk management in the supply chain and access to commercial opportunities for your business on the other side. So certification, thinking about risk management, certification meets stakeholder expectations for responsible sourcing and procurement, first and foremost. ESG goals and materiality assessments prioritize people and nature in the supply chain because companies are increasingly being viewed as risky if they don't take action on human rights or climate issues in their supply chains. And there's also a matter of resilience. Unsustainable farming practices and human rights abuses create volatility in the supply chain, and they can threaten your long-term supply needs. So RA certification can protect you and insulate you in some way from that risk because our approach is so rooted in building resiliency of farmers to changes in the climate and changes in the economy. And unsustainable farming practices and human rights abuses are also reputational issues. Companies really don't want to see deforestation or supply chains or associated with their brand. And certification isn't a guarantee that those issues never occur, but certification does offer transparency, prevention, and a remediation framework through due diligence to get ahead of these issues and have visibility on these issues. And there are also huge commercial opportunities to be gained, and I'll share some data and some of our partners with you next to speak to these points. But the uptake of our program across the world, especially in North America, is strong. And we know that certification is a really effective tool for showing consumers what are your values, enhance your brand, engage your consumers, engage your employees, build loyalty with those audiences, and also open up doors with partners in this space who are actively seeking to buy Rainforest Alliance certified goods. So certification adds credibility to your brand by offering an independent endorsement of the steps you're taking already to make your products more sustainable. So retailers really trust our seal and recognize our seal, and they commit to working with us precisely to answer to those stakeholder expectations. They want to manage risk in their supply chain, and they also are looking to generate trust and loyalty from the many consumers in this market that know who we are, and they look for us when they do their grocery shopping. So Whole Foods, through their Source for Good program, Albertsons, Costco, Walmart through their ESG framework, these are all retailers who have chosen to include Rainforest Alliance in their sustainable sourcing baskets, meaning that they consider Rainforest Alliance certification to be in direct alignment with their ESG frameworks and responsible sourcing criteria. Certification is a framework that retailers adopt because of the visibility them into sustainable performance in a very independent and standardized manner. And they also do this because consumers will buy these products. 34% of consumers in the US know who we are, and about half of those consumers would pay a premium price for a product. So consumers build trust with brands that do good. They have become increasingly aware of the impact of the choices they make when they are buying a product. And a growing number of people expect more than just goods that meet their needs. They're also looking for a brand that really shares their values in doing good for people and nature. And it's in these brands that consumers build trust and their purchase preferences. And as research shows, this is research from the Edelman Trust Barometer and Unilever, 84% of consumers consider a company's values towards people and nature before purchasing. So they're really being proactive about investigating whether or not a brand aligns with their values, and they factor that into their purchase decisions. And 64% of buyers are belief-driven. They celebrate the brands that they think are doing well. They will also outright reject them, and they will boycott them if they believe that they are unethical or simply not in alignment with their values. And this is a behavior that, interestingly enough, is not just limited to the younger buyer generations anymore, but also to the 55-plus audience. They are showing to be less brand loyal and more considerate of corporate social responsibility when making purchases. But consumers also highly value claims that are actually believable, and they would engage with these products more if they knew what was behind the claim, because consumers are skeptical, and sustainability packaging claims are a very crowded landscape. So using a seal that is third-party verified and engaging with certification is a very effective way to foster that transparency and standardization that consumers are looking for. So there's a large percentage of consumers who include people and nature within the values that they want to see in a brand. And these are strong indicators that sustainability sells well, and brands and companies who make these commitments will consumers. So just to close my piece of this presentation before I hand the floor back over to Victoria, I want to explain what it takes to join and become certified to the 2020 Sustainable Agriculture Standard. So all existing certificate holders, as well as new prospective certificate holders, will enter the program by registering via the links that I have shared here in a slide, which will definitely be provided to you after the presentation. But registration happens in our certification platform, and it entails providing some very basic information about your scope of business, your activities, either as a producer or a supply chain actor, and signing a license agreement to use our marks. And you'll also receive permission to use our traceability system at that point. So at this point, after registration, you will get from Rainforest Alliance a list of the criteria and the standards that are applicable to your scope of business and your activities, and you'll prepare to implement them. And then you can engage with a certification body like SCS to prepare for that audit. And you'll have a site audit if you are an actor with farming in the scope of your certificate, or you will have a desk audit if you are purely a supply chain actor. And then successful completion of that audit will result in Rainforest Alliance conferring a certificate, which is valid for 1 year for this initial year of the new program. And then after that year, the full 3-year certification cycle will begin. But after you get your transition, what we're calling a transition certificate for this first year of the 2020 program, you'll be eligible to then trade volumes as Rainforest Alliance certified and make claims about the Rainforest Alliance. So I think this is, it's a really exciting time to be joining the program because of the improvements that we've made. And we would love to partner with you on certification. There are a lot more resources we can offer to you to understand our criteria and the support that we can offer throughout the journey. And I would love to be in touch if you want a conversation. But beyond that, I want to say again, thank you for joining us. And at this time, I will pass the floor back to Victoria to take us forward.
Thanks, Olivia. Thank you. Yes, so an important contact to know is customer success at ra.org. They are, the customer success team at Rainforest Alliance will be able to field all questions and get all interested parties started on their Rainforest Alliance certification journey. Just to continue on with the certification process, if you wanted to get started with SCS, you can visit us at our website, scsglobalservices.com. With the Rainforest Alliance, you can even search on the webpage. As a broad overview of the process, you will need to register with the Rainforest Alliance directly if you're interested in getting certified and complete a risk assessment. And then from the risk assessment, Rainforest Alliance will share define your scope, and this information will be sent. You should send this to SCS in order to start the audit. So that's when we'll quote and send an agreement. And then it's only after you complete the risk assessment and get your scope from Rainforest Alliance can we start planning the audit and actually conduct the audit. And at that point, it follows a more traditional certification scheme. We'll have any closure of nonconformities found during the audit, and then issue the certificate decision. And then why even choose SCS? What makes the difference? Well, SCS, as I mentioned, certifies and audits to over 70 schemes, and we really emphasize streamlining and bundling where we can, having flexible scheduling options, and trying to be a one-stop shop for your training and certification needs. You can always get information about competitive pricing and discounts with us if you come in contact with our sales team, Bernadette Goldstein, Nas Chowdhury, and myself. So with that, we can pivot to the Q&A session. I'm starting to get some questions in the chat box now. Again, if you have any questions, all the participants are on listen mode. So if you have a question, please just share it in the question or chat box. So one of the first questions I see is, could you briefly touch on the requirements for supply chain actors that do not have farming in their scope? So if Olivia wants to take this, I'm also happy to answer this question.
Sure. So is the question, what steps do you have to take to pursue certification as a supply chain actor?
Right, as a supply chain actor that isn't farm.
Got it. Yeah. So you will, number one, like step 0, register and indicate your interest in the 2020 program using the link that we've provided in this slide deck. And when you register, you're going to provide information about the name of your business, where do you operate, what types of activities are you doing, like are you taking physical possession of volumes or are you processing those volumes somehow? You will, once you complete registration, you will get a list of standard criteria that are applicable to your scope of business. Prepare to implement those criteria, and then from there you can start your engagement with the certification body. And after you complete your audit successfully, you will get you'll get a certificate for Rainforest Alliance, and that will confer all the benefits of the program using the trademark, traceability, etc.
Thank you, Olivia. And also to add, first, there are 2 different standards, one for supply chain, one for farm. So if you're curious about what's the difference between those requirements, you can have, there's access to it publicly on the Rainforest Alliance website. All right, and the next question is the RACP, the Rainforest Alliance certification platform, launched by Rainforest Alliance? So
yeah,
the RACP.
Sure. Yeah. So the registration is limited to early registrants right now, but it's going to launch to the broader public in about a week.
Awesome. And yeah, the RACP is something that evolved from the UTS multi-trace and will be, hopefully in 1 week, the entire certification process will be done through that platform. Okay. So there's a technical question about why has the shade criteria for certifying coffee changed over the past few years? Well, I don't think that Olivia and I can answer that for you, so we'll try to answer that for you offline, Lena. The next question is, what sort of traceability system do you offer?
Very good question. So it's an in-house traceability system. So it's like owned and built and maintained by Rainforest Alliance. And it's capturing information from like the farm all the way to the retailer. And it's looking at like volumes sold and transformed across each part of the supply chain until the finished good is manufactured or sold to the end user.
Yeah, the traceability system, is the same as the Rainforest Alliance certification platform. It's where you handle all your volumes, certified volumes. Okay. The next question is about the typical cost of an audit. That can be addressed offline because it depends on your scope, how many, if you're a farm, if you're a supply chain, how many sites you have, etc. So we'll answer that offline. Next question, who has to get certified in the supply chain and where does it end?
Yeah, good question. So really anyone who is taking possession of Rainforest Alliance certified goods has to get certified, but there are different levels of assurance. So like the type of audit that a retailer gets who is purely making claims and they're like working with a private labeler or another type of supply chain actor to produce or deliver their goods is going to look very different from the type of audit that like a first processor at origin is getting as a supply chain actor. So the answer is if you intend to make claims or trace certified goods, then you need to get certified. You're within the scope of the program.
Okay. Are there any differences between the UTS and Rainforest Alliance certification with the merger?
There are many. Yeah, I would be happy to follow up on that because the pre-merger criteria, like, I mean, there are areas of each pre-merger standard that look fairly similar, but how we unified that, like, depending on the section of the standard, might mean something different for a pre-merger actor who was familiar with the pre-merger UTS standard versus the pre-merger RA standard. So I'd be happy to follow up on that with you if you have questions about specific criteria.
Great. Yeah, that's quite a large question. So then there's some questions. Do you have an office in Cameroon? Either if this is directed to SES, we do not have an office in Cameroon currently. Does Rainforest Alliance operate in Cameroon? If you know, Olivia.
Yeah, we do. We have field staff in Cameroon.
Yeah, every country is open to Rainforest Alliance certification, if I'm not mistaken. So you're not limited by your region. Okay. Someone asks if SES operates in Sri Lanka. We do. So you can reach out to us we can reach out to you directly about logistics for that. So someone's asking what our geographical approval is for Rainforest Alliance. I believe that's directed to SES. There's actually a list on the Rainforest Alliance website of all authorized certified certification bodies, and where they operate. So that'll be the easiest way to direct you to the Rainforest Alliance website, and just look for Rainforest Alliance certification, authorized certification bodies, and you'll be able to find that information about which CBs operate where and for which scopes. And the two scopes are farm and supply chain. Okay, someone's asking to share the website to register with the 2020 program. Okay, here's another question for you, Olivia. Does a retailer need to be certified to sell a non-private label product? For example, Walmart.
No, they do not. They do not.
All right. For transitioning certificate holders from UTS to the new Rainforest Alliance standard, how will the traceability work with some certificate holders still putting their transactions in the old platform and farms registering in the new platform?
Good question. So it differs crop by crop. So there's going to be a phased migration there's currently a phased migration underway for tea from the marketplace platform over to the multi-trace platform. Cocoa will be next, and then coffee will follow. But whole fruit and anything that we consider a perishable, so that's basically anything except everything but coffee, cocoa, and tea is going to remain in marketplace. So your certification profile is going to live in the Rainforest Alliance certification platform, which is multi-trace. And if you're dealing with coffee, you will also be treating it multi-trace. But if you are dealing with any of the, fruits or juices or cut flowers, herbs and spices, coconut oil, I believe that will all remain in marketplace.
Thanks, Olivia.
And you will also request all artwork approvals through marketplace. So if you're using our marks on packaging or promotional materials, you can claim FOW RA. That process is going to remain in marketplace as well.
Great. Let's see. What products fall under the category of forest products?
Timber, fibers, non-timber forest products, so something like Ramon nuts or like wild collected ingredients from forest landscapes.
Great, thank you. Someone asks if SES plans to perform farm audits in Ivory Coast. Yes, we are approved. So one of the countries we are approved for farm and supply chain is Ivory Coast. But there's actually, Ivory Coast has a special audit allocation process that is different than the rest of the countries. So so again, you'll have to contact Rainforest Alliance directly regarding getting audited in Ivory Coast, and that will be, there's an email for West Africa Cocoa, so wacocoa@ra.org. So one person asks, when are the 2020 supply chain audits beginning? Olivia, if you'd like.
Those are eligible to begin July 1st.
Right. And then this is the transition year. So what, actually follow-up question for you, Olivia.
Sure.
But if they're brand new to the Rainforest Alliance standard, they weren't a pre-merger UTS or pre-merger RA, this is their first certification year. It doesn't follow the transition certificate.
Yeah, everybody gets a transition certificate starting July 1st. That's like the only type of audit that can take place July 1st, 21 through June 30th, 2022.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying. Let's see. One question, does SCS plan to train auditors in Ivory Coast about Rainforest Alliance standards? Yes, we have auditors based in Ivory Coast that we have trained to the new Rainforest Alliance standards. Rainforest Alliance has their own certification training team that provides other trainings as well. Let's see. Next question. If SCS is a certification body for the first week of July, how many weeks are required to finalize audit and issue certificate? So this is kind of a question for Olivia, I think, is what is the time frame for the entire audit process?
So that's outlined in the certification and auditing rules. I would say from end to end, as a program actor, you should expect from the time of registration to getting your certificate should take about 6 months. There are rules for auditing bodies to conduct the audit in a timely manner, take the decision in a timely manner. They have an allotted time frame to communicate that back to Rainforest Alliance, and then Rainforest Alliance has an allotted time frame to review the decision taken by the certification body and confer the certificate after that. So that's mind right now, but they are in the certification and auditing rules, and I can follow up with you with that document if you're interested.
Okay, great. So it is 11:01. We still have a few more questions in the box, but I think we'll answer those offline. But thank you everyone so much. Thank you, Olivia, for your time and dealing with the technical issues. We will reach out to everyone who has registered, and we'll share the recording to the webinar, and as well as reach out to all of those last remaining questions to answer those directly. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we appreciate you joining.
Thank you. Take care.